How's it going, guys? This is Derek J407, and I'm here to give you my thoughts on night 2 of WrestleMania 36, once again taped from the Performance Center from a week ago. Of course, WrestleMania was split into 2 nights. Night 1 aired last night on the WWE Network, and of course, if you want to hear my thoughts on night 1, you can stay on my channel and pull up my video from the previous night. I talked about everything from Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch, the Boneyard match, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. Everything that went down on night 1 is all covered in its entirety in that video, and this one is all about night 2, which I thought was better than night 1. Top to bottom, this WrestleMania was a weird one. No crowd in the Performance Center, all of these obstacles and restrictions and all of it really hurt the show in a lot of ways. And as many good matches as there were on both nights, especially this night, for as many matches that there were that took place that were really good, and there were quite a few, you just know they would have been even better had there been a crowd to react to them. A lot of the big moments that took place on this show, they would have just been way more impactful had a crowd been there to react to it. So this whole pandemic has definitely taught us that wrestling needs a crowd. It needs an audience. It needs the fans, for better or worse, to be there to react and to go crazy and all of that stuff for all of these moments, because a lot of these big moments happen, and without that fan reaction, whether they're cheering or booing, it just is not the same thing. And there were a lot of things on this show that had the fans reacted to it, there would have been some pretty big cheers for a lot of things. It sucks we had Mandy Rose and Otis finally kiss, and there was no crowd to react to it. Or Drew McIntyre realizing his dream and winning the WWE Championship in the main event in front of an empty building. You know, a lot of that stuff, it hurt it. But I will say, much like night 1 impressed me, night 2 impressed me, and I would say I enjoyed watching night 2 a lot better than night 1. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into recapping this show. Once again, we had a kickoff match. Why did we have a kickoff match? I have no idea. I don't know why we got Cesaro and Drew Gulak from the previous night, and I don't know why we got the match we did on this night, which was Liv Morgan versus Natalya. The less said about this match, the better. It was completely forgettable. It was completely useless. It was just a reason to get these women on the show. I assume in an alternate universe where WrestleMania went on as planned, the match would have been Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, and Ruby Riott in a triple threat match with the former Riott Squad members. But things being what they are, I guess that match just was not going to be possible. So they did this one. Liv Morgan won. She rolled up Natty and got the win. So that's really all you can really say about this match. The show kicked off with Stephanie McMahon once again welcoming us to WrestleMania, and they just replayed the same intro as the previous night, only they focused on the stars who were wrestling on this night instead of the ones from the previous night. So kind of the same thing there, but the show opened with the NXT Women's Championship match. Rhea Ripley, the NXT Women's Champion, defending against the 2020 Royal Rumble winner, Charlotte Flair. Of all the women's matches heading into WrestleMania, this was the one that I was looking forward to the most. It was a fresh match. It was a unique matchup in terms of styles between the two, Ripley and Flair, and I thought they could go out there and put on a really good match. Once again, competing in front of a crowd would have been a lot better, but these two women had a very good match. It was very physical. Ripley, she hit the Riptide like within the first few moments of the match, but it was only good for a 2 count, and Charlotte rolled to the outside to get some distance, and then a little bit later on, Charlotte went after Rhea's left leg and started to work over the leg throughout the entire match. It was a leg she injured on a previous week's NXT, so it was an injury heading into this match that was just re-aggravated and refocused on. And that was kind of the bulk of the match. Charlotte kept going for the figure four, kept trying to go for it, but Rhea kept weaseling her way out of it and avoiding it. But in the end, Charlotte finally locked in the figure four leg lock and then transitioned it into the figure eight. And lo and behold, Rhea Ripley tapped out clean as a sheet, and Charlotte Flair is once again the NXT Women's Champion for the first time since 2014, 2015, whenever she first originally lost the championship. Yeah. Charlotte Flair won the NXT Women's Championship at WrestleMania 36. Charlotte Flair won. LOL. I can't believe they had Charlotte win, but it's Charlotte, so you can only be so surprised, right? You can only be so surprised at that outcome when it comes to Charlotte. They clearly have an agenda. They want to push this woman as one of the greatest women's champions and women's competitors in WWE history. They want her to break her father's record of 16 championships, and they are well on their way of doing that. What does this mean for the future of Rhea Ripley? I don't know. I don't know if a spot on the main roster is in her future. I would think it could be, but I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for Rhea Ripley. I do know that at least as of now, Charlotte's back in NXT. She's the champion of the women's division there, and it is a pretty stacked women's division. In fact, on NXT TV coming up in a few weeks, we have the number one contenders ladder match that involves women like Candice LeRae, Tegan Nox, Io Shirai, Dakota Kai, women like that. So one of them is going to win and become the number one contender. So we could easily see one of them win it and beat Charlotte. So we'll see what happens. Up next, a match that was just added to the show for the sake of being on the show, Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley. This was a match. It happened, it took place, it started, it happened, it ended, and that was kind of that. Lashley was dominating majority of the match. He had Black up, was going to hit the Dominator when Lana, of course, Bobby Lashley's wife, she's on the outside, she got up on the apron and was yelling and screaming at Bobby, no, go for the spear. So he lets down Black, he goes to his corner, and he charges at Black to go for the spear, but in doing so, Black caught him with the Black Mass and got the win. Aleister Black wins this match. The right outcome, any other outcome would have been ridiculous. So Lana cost Bobby Lashley the match pretty much. But yeah, the right outcome, Aleister Black wins. This was a nothing match, but hey, at least Black won. They aired a commercial hyping up the next pay-per-view event, Money in the Bank, scheduled to air on the WWE Network on May 10th. It was originally scheduled to take place in Baltimore, Maryland, but of course, that is absolutely not going to be happening. And the question as to whether this show is going to happen at all remains up in the air. Following WrestleMania and Raw tomorrow night, the taping schedule for WWE these next few weeks is going to be a little fuzzy, so we don't know if they'll be able to do that show or not. I assume if they do it, it'll just take place from the PC, just like WrestleMania did. So just be on the lookout for that one. Up next, the payoff and the blow off to one of the biggest, most hyped, most well-told storylines on TV these last few weeks. The blow off to the Otis, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Dolph Ziggler storyline. We had Otis versus Dolph Ziggler. If you were to tell me a year ago that a WrestleMania caliber match would be Otis versus Dolph Ziggler, I would have laughed in your face, but it absolutely is. This was a match that has been built up for a long time now. This is a story that has run its course and has played itself out for months now, and it has been one of the most entertaining and riveting pieces of storytelling that WWE has been doing on their TV show in months. And it's been very simple, it's been very straightforward. It's a love story, Beauty and the Beast, Otis and Mandy. All these people and obstacles getting in their way of getting together when we finally got the blow off here. So, of course, on SmackDown the previous week, we had the big reveal that it was Sonya Deville who was caught on camera, seemingly GTV or something. She was caught on camera using Mandy's cell phone to text Otis that she was going to be late for their Valentine's Day dinner. And of course, that's when Dolph Ziggler swooped in, stole Mandy right from Otis, and that's kind of what led us to this point. So the big reveal took place, and we got the match here. And of course, Otis was looking to kill Dolph, and he did for a good chunk of it, although Dolph, being the veteran that he is, got the better of Otis at several points. Dolph had Sonya Deville out there in his corner, so she paid dividends for him. Otis was in control, and Sonya got up on the ring apron, provided a distraction, distracted the referee. Ref had his back turned, so Dolph gave Otis a low blow. So Otis is down, and out comes Mandy Rose. We hear Mandy Rose's theme music hit. She comes down the ramp. She meets Sonya Deville outside the ring, goes face to face with her, and unloads and slaps the taste right out of Sonya's mouth. She mounts her. Don't get too excited. She mounts Sonya, starts to ground and pound and beat her down a little bit. She goes around the other side of the ring. The ref is over there checking on Sonya, has his back turned again. Mandy gets in the ring. Dolph is yelling at her, telling her you're going to ruin everything and you're ruining this and all that. Mandy gets in the ring, gives Dolph a low blow, and then that paves the way for Otis to perform the caterpillar, hit his big elbow, get the pin, and get the 1-2-3 over Dolph Ziggler. Otis gets the win, and after the match, he lifts Mandy in his arms, and the two share a passionate kiss right in the middle of the ring. A beautiful end, a fairy tale ending to this very beautiful story. It just sucks that it couldn't be in front of a crowd. It really does, because this is one of the matches where every single match needed to be in front of a crowd. Well, except for the Funhouse match and the Boneyard match. But aside from those, all of these matches belonged in front of a crowd, and they would have been so much better, especially that, with that ending. This is a story that has been built up for months, and the fans have loved Otis. Otis has gotten over huge, way more than I thought he would. But a lot of people agree that this has been one of the best stories in recent months, and the crowd has just played such a huge part in it. The heat that Dolph Ziggler has had in recent weeks has been amazing, up until they, didn't have the crowds at the show anymore. But it's been great. So the payoff here, it was the right way to end it. I assume this is going to set up a mixed tag at some point down the line. But as for this story, as it is concluded, and it concludes with Mandy Rose and Otis together. So, a beautiful end. Just wish it could have been in front of a crowd. Speaking of wish it could have been in front of a crowd, that leads us to the next match, the last man standing match between Randy Orton and Edge, the first singles match of Edge's career in 9 years. And this has been the second best storyline in the company these last few months. The promos, the actions between Randy Orton and Edge these last few months have been tremendous. Randy Orton has been way more interesting to watch in I don't know how long, or according to Edge's promo the week before, since he had last been there. It's been great. So you knew that a match like this is going to suffer without a crowd, but last man standing, you get to go around the ringside, you get to go all around the building, just beat the holy hell out of each other. A personal feud like this, a personal vendetta, with or without the crowd, you knew it was going to be some hard-hitting action, and it was kind of that. Kinda. A little. Yeah, this match, this was a good match. I'd even say it was a very good match, but it was a very, very long match. This one went on for a while, probably about 5 or 10 minutes longer than it should have, I would say. So, but let me I gotta preface it by saying this was a good match. It just went a little too long and it kind of dragged out a little bit. There were some slower points during it, and it just, I don't know. Let's start from the beginning here. Edge, he comes out first. Randy's music hits. He's waiting on Randy, and from behind, out of nowhere, Randy hits an RKO. And we see a replay that showed that Randy was disguised as a cameraman behind Edge. So he swooped in, gave Edge the RKO, and that was kind of the start of the match. Then the bell officially rang. Randy hit another RKO. Edge rolled his way outside of the ring to get back to his feet. And from that moment on, they were no longer anywhere in the ring. And they fought everywhere else. They fought into the crowd that was non-existent. They fought backstage. They fought in, so this is the PC, so there's the Performance Center, there's a lot of different areas of the PC. They fought into the gymnasium area. We saw Gargano and Ciampa on NXT a few weeks ago. They wrestled and brawled in this area too. So we see Orton and Edge here. They're fighting over by the weights and the dumbbells and the barbells and all that kind of stuff. At one point, Edge wrapped like one of the weight ropes, or like the lifting pull down hooks and ropes. He was wrapping it around Edge's head and neck and chest and shoulders and throat and stuff like that, just beating on him. And I don't know, just a little bit of a week after the whole Vice documentary aired with the Benoit stuff, and that's really fresh in a lot of people's minds. Don't think you needed something involving slight strangulation and a weight room, knowing the Benoit story. So, yeah, wasn't sure about that spot there. But, eventually they got away from it. They were brawling there, going back and forth for a while. Eventually they led to the hallways, and they got into some of the rooms, some of the conference rooms. At one point, Edge had Randy laid out on, like, the center table in the conference room, and he climbed up on the ceiling. There was like this piece hanging from the ceiling, so he just climbed that and was like right above Orton, and he dropped down with an elbow right to Orton's ribs. And speaking of elbows to the ribs, they fought more into the backstage area. Edge climbed up on top of a like fence structure, some large structure. Orton was laid out on a table from below. Edge came crashing down with an elbow drop, put Randy right through the table. So, cool spot there, but it was still kind of dragging at this point. They fight over by the garage area. There's a pickup truck. Both men get on top of that. Orton gets Edge beaten down. He tells the referee to stop counting for a moment, and he hangs up Edge onto the roof of the truck and delivers a draping DDT right on the back part of the truck. It spiked Edge's head right into it. It looked pretty bad. It made a very nasty thud noise. It was a very sick bump, and a man who has had neck injuries, and it was a neck injury that kept him out for 9 years. Not the smartest move, but a move that made sense. Both men got on top of one of the production truck trailers. They were both up there. Edge was down on his hands and knees. Orton backs up. He's gearing up to deliver the punt kick, and when he comes in for it, Edge catches him with a spear. The referee proceeds to count, and Orton, that is, manages to get back to his feet. Edge goes for another spear, but then this time Randy catches him in midair with an RKO. So once again, both men are down, but eventually Edge does make it back to his feet. So we're gearing up for the finish here. By the way, there were multiple points in the match where Edge was down and the referee did not count, and Randy Orton had to tell him, like, count. I think there was one point early on, Edge was down and Randy was like, does that not count, or is that not a count? So I think that was probably the highlight of the match, honestly, now that I think about it. But nevertheless, Orton, he's going for the concerto. That was kind of the big move that started this entire feud all those months ago back in January. So he's going for the concerto, and Edge manages to escape sudden doom, and he locks Orton in some kind of side sleeper submission hold. Whatever it was enough to put Orton to sleep. The referee began to count again, and Edge audibly told him, "Stop fucking counting," or "Stop the fucking count." Of course, it was bleeped out, but still. Edge proceeded to grab a steel chair. Randy's head was, of course, laid out on another chair. Both men still on the trailer. Edge has a chair in hand, and he begins to cry. He begins to shed tears. He's very emotional. He slowly walks over to Randy, looks down at him, sucks back the tears, unloads, and delivers a huge concerto to Randy. Randy's down. He's dead, basically. The referee counts, makes it to 10, and Edge gets the win. The predictable outcome, but the right outcome nonetheless. Edge vanquishes the Viper, and he is the last man standing. I thought this was a good match. I thought they were telling a very good story. You know, Randy was beating down Edge at several points. It was very uncomfortable with how slow and methodical it was. But that goes with Randy, the apex predator, the Viper, that whole, slow to strike kind of stuff. I know with the involvement of Beth Phoenix and mentioning Edge's kids and how personal it was, it could have been a little more intense, a little more, fire and fury and stuff, but they played it a little slower. There were the big spots, scattered throughout, and that ending was just beautiful. From telling the referee to stop counting to the tears and the impact of the concerto, that whole ending was picture perfect. I loved it. It was beautiful. The entire match from start to finish was just very, very good. It was not as excellent as I thought it was going to be going in, and I do feel like you could have shaved a couple minutes off of that match. You could have left some stuff out. Like I said, the strangulation part in the weight room, you could have left that out. Don't think we really needed to see that. Maybe I'm reaching with the Benoit comparison, but I saw other people mentioning it too, so maybe we're all reaching. I don't know, but you could have left that part out, and there were maybe a few other things that you could have kind of left on the cutting room floor, but nevertheless, it was still a good match, good effort, and despite there being no crowd, it's nice to see Edge in a singles match again. Hopefully the next time we see it, there is a crowd that he can wrestle in front of, but still good stuff nonetheless. We had a segment with Mojo Rawley and Rob Gronkowski. Of course, Gronk is the host of WrestleMania, and the previous night, Mojo Rawley won back the 24/7 championship, and Gronk made it very clear at the beginning of this show that he was going to win that title. So we see Mojo running from backstage. A bunch of random people are following him. It's like a half dozen people, maybe a little bit more, and I'm thinking, hey, social distancing, like, come on, guys. So they're all brawling or kind of fumbling around over near the area where there's like a balcony pedestal type thing in the PC, and we see Gronk up there, and he just kind of dives off and dives down onto this pile of people, including Mojo, who he pins and wins the 24/7 championship. And then a little bit later on, Titus O'Neil came out and was the new host of WrestleMania. And other than being out to say that and then provide a reaction after the John Cena Bray Wyatt match, he served no purpose. So that was that. The next big match that happened was the Raw Tag Team title match. It was Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, the Street Profits, defending against the makeshift team of Angel Garza and Austin Theory. Of course, this was originally supposed to be Andrade, but Andrade suffered a rib injury, so he could not participate in this match. This was just a match, nothing really special. The best part of the match was Ford going for a dive to the outside on Austin Theory, and Angelo Dawkins was out there too, so he collided with his partner as well. He did that because the previous week on Raw, there was a match that involved Ford and Theory did not catch Montez Ford when he went for that dive. So I thought that was funny. But the finish saw Theory going for a cover on Dawkins, and it was broken up by Montez Ford, who hit a frog splash, his beautiful frog splash on Austin Theory. Dawkins got the cover and got the win. Street Profits retain. After the match, the heels attack. Zelina Vega joins in on the beatdown when Bianca Belair comes out from the crowd. She comes in, or not crowd, from the back. There isn't even a crowd. What am I talking about? But Bianca Belair comes in, and she beats down Zelina, hits her with the KOD, and just kind of poses and dances with the Street Profits. So I don't know if she's going to be a part of the act now. I don't know if this was just an introduction of her and she'll be with them for the short term, but eventually she'll branch out on her own. Hopefully that's the case. But yeah, it's still cool to see Bianca Belair out there with her husband Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. But that was the only highlight of the match. Otherwise, it was a nothing match. Speaking of a nothing match, we had the SmackDown Women's Championship match up next. Fatal 5-way elimination match. The champion Bayley defending against Naomi, Lacey Evans, Tamina Snuka, and Sasha Banks. It went longer than I thought it was going to. So, hey, they got time. I guess that's cool. But it was nothing special. We had a Team Bad reunion in the middle of the match. Sasha Banks, Naomi, and Tamina. They did their unity thing or whatever. But that was quickly abolished. Everyone hit their moves on Tamina. Bayley hit a diving elbow. Sasha hit a frog splash. Lacey Evans hit a moonsault. Naomi hit a split-legged moonsault. And everyone pinned her to eliminate her. A little bit later, Sasha Banks locked in the bank statement on Naomi. Naomi tapped out. Then it was 2-on-1 against Lacey Evans. They were beating down Lacey. They had her in the corner. Bayley was going to charge at her with a running knee while Sasha held her. But when Bayley came in, Lacey moved out of the way and she accidentally connected the knee to Sasha's face. A little bit later, Sasha got back up. She got back in the ring and she was not happy. She and Bayley exchanged words for a moment. But eventually, Bayley, she shoved Sasha out of the way when Lacey was coming at her. Lacey went for the women's right on Bayley, but then Bayley ducked and pushed Lacey, who then connected with the women's right on Sasha and pinned her to eliminate her. So Sasha was eliminated. Bayley did nothing to help her, and that was that. So it came down to Lacey and Bayley. They fought for a while. Lacey hit a moonsault. Bayley kicked out. Eventually, Sasha, she either came back out or she never left. I'm not really sure about that, but either way, she came back in, hit a backstabber on Lacey, and Bayley got the win. Sasha picked up the championship, and she looked at it. There was a slight tease what was going to happen, but nothing came of it. She strapped the championship around Bayley's waist, and this is going to continue to build up. I don't know for how much longer. I don't know when there's going to be the big match. I would assume SummerSlam in Boston, if it can happen, which it's questionable whether or not that match can happen. But I would assume that's when we'll get the big match. But nevertheless, I thought this was an okay match. But clearly the focus is on the Bayley-Sasha story, which they're going to take a little more time to build up. Up next, after the Boneyard match from the previous night, I was extra motivated to see what John Cena and Bray Wyatt would do in their Firefly Funhouse match, and we saw it. So up next was John Cena versus The Fiend in a Funhouse match. We see John Cena, his music hits, he comes out to the arena. I'm thinking, aw, don't do that. Don't be in the empty arena. But then it quickly cut to a Firefly Funhouse skit. We see Bray Wyatt standing there. He introduces Cena to the Funhouse, and Wyatt goes through the door. We see the "Abandon Ye Who All Enter" sign, and then out of nowhere, Cena. He's right there in the Funhouse. We see Ramblin' Rabbit pop up to tell Cena where to go, where to find Bray. So Cena leaves. He gets confronted by Puppet Vince, who's yelling at him and all that kind of stuff, threatening to fire him. And then we cut to Bray Wyatt in a ring, in an empty ring, no lights, just the ring, and he's channeling Kurt Angle from 2002, challenging someone to come out to face him. And out comes John Cena in the trunks, in the boots, very similar to the ones that he wore in his debut back in 2002 against Kurt Angle. Cena comes out. Bray is asking him, like, what's the one thing you possess? And of course, Cena says ruthless aggression, just like he did back then. He unloads to punch Bray, but Bray ducks it. He's kind of just mocking Cena. He talks about, like, gee, no wonder you were almost fired. Cena goes for the punch again. He keeps shouting ruthless aggression every time he goes for it. Bray started to sing, "You can look, but you can't touch," so kind of mocking Nikki Bella. So at this point, this was already the best thing in the world. Then eventually it cut to something completely different. This is insane to recap. It cuts to the Saturday night's main event intro, and we see Bray Wyatt. He's backstage. The film is kind of grainy, and he's cutting this crazy coked up promo like you would expect the guys from the 80s to do. We see Cena. He's, just clanging and banging some weights, and they're just cutting this crazy promo talking about their tag team partners or something like that. Then that cuts to Word Life, Doctor of Thugonomics. John Cena, he's in his jersey, got the knucks and all that kind of stuff. He can only speak to Bray in rap, so he cuts a rap on him, a scathing rap. Wyatt retorts with some emotional promo, and Cena goes to attack him, but Bray uses brass knucks of his own, or Cena's brass knucks, and knocks Cena out. So Cena's knocked out, and then we cut to something completely different, which is Wyatt family, Eater of Worlds. He's got the whole world in his hand, Bray Wyatt. He's in the rocking chair. He's got the hat on. He's got the Hawaiian shirt. He's cutting another promo. We see Cena wearing a shirt similar to that he wore back around WrestleMania 30. They try to recreate the spot from that match where Wyatt's on his knees and Cena has a chair. And this time Cena unloads the chair. But when he does so, Wyatt's gone. He's nowhere to be found. Then we cut to something else. It's the WCW Monday Nitro theme playing, and we see Wyatt in the ring. He's wearing NWA gear and a jacket similar to that of Eric Bischoff from those days. He introduces John Cena, who comes out with the Hollywood theme song. He has the WCW World Title belt with the NWO spray painted on it. We see the commentary duo of Macho Man Mercy the Buzzard, and of course Puppet Vince, who says the line, "This is good shit." So I died at that. So Cena's in the ring. Then he turns his attention to Wyatt. He starts to beat down Wyatt. He's punching on him. We cut to the puppets. They're saying, like, oh, he's in trouble. He's hurting him and all that kind of stuff. But eventually, Cena punching and beating down on Wyatt, turns out Wyatt's gone, and it's Huskus, the pig puppet. So now Cena's kind of punching on the puppet, and then out of the dark comes the Fiend, who finally appears. He locks Cena in the mandible claw, puts him in position for the Sister Abigail, and then we hear a replay of the promo that Cena cut on TV a few weeks ago. We hear him say, this time out of context or directed at himself, where he said, "I'm going to finish what I started 6 years ago, and I'm going to put an end to one of the most overhyped superstars in WWE history, blah, blah, blah." All that stuff that he was directing at Wyatt in that promo that Wyatt turned back around on Cena, because the words were being spoken and played right as it was focusing on Cena. So he gets laid down. He's still in the mandible claw. And then we see Mr. Rogers, Bray Wyatt, come in, count the three, and it's 1, 2, 3. So in this crazy ass match, somehow Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, got the win. Bray Wyatt counted the win for Bray Wyatt. This was one of the most insane things I've ever seen, I've ever recapped, I've ever had to review, but it was still one of the best WrestleMania matches I've ever seen. This thing was crazy. I have no idea how I managed to recap all of that. If you did not see that, I have no idea what's wrong with you. Go back and watch it. Comparing it to the Boneyard match, I liked the Boneyard match a little better, but this was still pretty fun. This was a lot of fun. They clearly were going well over the top, and the different transitions to the different periods of John Cena's career, and then just the crazy obscure references like with Saturday Night's Main Event and WCW and the NWO and all this crazy stuff. But I thought it was really cool. It was very well done. So, and hey, Wyatt beat Cena. It was the right outcome. It was the outcome that should have happened at WrestleMania 30, but it happened here. So, by hook or crook or whatever the fuck we just saw, Wyatt beat Cena, and that's all that matters. And then we'll get the main event for the WWE Championship. 2020 Men's Royal Rumble winner Drew McIntyre challenging the Beast, the WWE Champion Brock Lesnar, in probably the best WrestleMania Championship main event match that we've gotten since, WrestleMania 31? Because the one for 32 was not good, 33 was not good, 34 was not really all that good. 33 there was no championship main event. 33 was not, 34 was not all that good. 35 was the women's championship. Still wasn't all that good, but still. So this one, it was short, it was sweet, it was right to the point, and it kind of came and went. Brock went after Drew, immediately took him down, but Drew ended up hitting a Claymore kick, and that brought down the Beast, but it was only good for a 2 count. Drew went for another one, but Brock managed to dodge it, and that's when he took Drew to Suplex City. He only gave him a couple suplexes, got him up, hit him with the F5. Drew kicks out at 1. He kicks out of the F5 at 1, so that immediately causes an impact. Brock gets him back up, hits a second F5, kicks out at 2, hits him with a third F5. This one got me. I thought it was going to be over, but Drew kicked out again. So Brock is frustrated. He's almost laughing in disbelief. He gets Drew up, goes for a fourth F5, but Drew manages to escape and slip out, hits him with a Claymore. Brock's down. He gets back up. Drew hits him with a third Claymore kick. Brock is still down. Drew hauls back and unloads one final fourth Claymore kick and gets the 1-2-3. Drew McIntyre finally gets his moment and becomes the WWE Champion. I thought the match was nice. It was a lot better than the Universal Championship match from the night before. But unlike that match, this one was the right outcome. Now I know, obviously this would have worked so much better in front of a crowd. Big moment for Drew McIntyre in the main event of WrestleMania. Hits the Claymore kick. 70, 80,000 people just screaming their asses off for Drew McIntyre finally winning his moment, slaying the Beast and becoming the champion. A big, huge moment, but it wasn't to be. But for what we got, I thought it was still a really good moment. It was very emotional for Drew. You could tell he was very emotional, and I do think it was the right outcome. I know this whole pandemic has a lot of things up in the air, but I do think putting the championship on Drew was the right move. So I'm happy for Drew McIntyre. I'm a big fan of his. He's been busting his ass for years. He finally got to this point where he's extremely over with the crowd. He was ramping up. He was in this spot. He earned his way into this big match with Brock. He's been made to look on the same level as Brock the entire way. Even in this match, he was made to look like a big star, and he walks away with the win. So, congrats to Drew McIntyre. Very proud of him, very happy for him. Like I said, would have been a lot better in front of a crowd, but that goes to the entire WrestleMania card itself. So, top to bottom, I thought night 2 was really good. I gave night 1 a 7 out of 10. I'd give night 2 maybe a 7.5 out of 10, or maybe even 7.75, bordering on 8, but I think I give it a 7.5 out of 10. So a notch better than night 1, although night 1 was pretty good for what it was. And I will say I liked the Boneyard match more than the Funhouse match, but not by much, because the Funhouse match was fun. No pun intended. The championship match on This show was a hell of a lot better than the championship match on the previous show, though. And the big women's championship match, Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, was a lot better than the Becky Lynch, Shayna Baszler match from the previous night. Both finishes are very questionable, so that's kind of equal in that regard. Edge and Randy Orton, like I said, it was a little slow, and it went on a little longer than it needed to, but I still think they had a really good match. So top to bottom, night 2 was really good, night 1 was really good, which makes WrestleMania overall pretty damn good. I'm not the biggest fan of splitting WrestleMania up into 2 nights, but it worked out pretty well this year. And of course, not having a crowd really did make the show suffer, but given the circumstances, everything that's going on, they did what they could. Where they go from here, as far as taping is concerned, I have no idea. I know the post-Mania Raw show is already taped, so we'll see that tomorrow. As far as SmackDown this Friday, that's kind of up in the air. And going forward, and the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, all that, it's all up in the air. So that's about it for me, and that's probably going to be it for me for a while. Not a whole lot of wrestling stuff to talk about for me. So I hope everyone out there is staying safe. I hope people are staying home that need to be. And for those who are going out because you have to work, you have an essential job, all that kind of stuff, be safe. You're the real heroes out there. And for everyone else, just be smart, be safe, stay healthy, all that. I hope everyone is doing a good job, and I hope everyone enjoyed WrestleMania to some degree, and I hope it provided some levity for you to some degree. So that's it for me. Take care, guys.